backslid, man. In my early 20s, I just started. It was a year of firsts in my life, and they weren't good ones. I was doing a lot of things I had no business doing, and I was drifting further and further away from God. And eventually just came back to church, the same church, and a young lady caught my eye.
How's it going, ISM family? This is the ISM Show, our show where we have conversations with students and leaders that help you lead yourself, lead others, give to missions, and live on mission. As you may know, our annual conference, Momentum 2021, is coming up soon. It's going to be on November 19th through the 20th at Calvary Church in Naperville, Illinois. And one of our speakers this year is Pastor Nelson Vargas. Recently, I had a chance to sit down with him to hear his life story, how he came to know Jesus, and how he got called into the ministry. We have way more content that we shot from this conversation, so if you want to keep up with more content like this, you got to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, your favorite podcasting platform, Twitter, Facebook, all the things. So without any further ado, here's a little bit of my conversation with Pastor Nelson Vargas, where we get to hear his life story. Hope you enjoy.
So, Pastor Nelson, what is your story?
Well, Zach, I got to let you know right off the bat, I'm a grown man. I am a 40-year-old youth pastor. But to rewind that a little bit, grew up, born and raised in Chicago on the northwest side of the city. Never in great neighborhoods. It was not rare for someone to get shot right outside our house. And one time in particular, I could remember hearing gunshots and running to the window because I wanted to see the action. I wanted to see what was going on. And my mom's like, "Get down," and some other choice words that I can't share on the podcast. But and I did, and I was really more afraid of getting hit by my mom than I was getting shot by a stray bullet. But it was just normal. That was life for me. And we might have been a little dysfunctional, but I didn't know too much of it while growing up. And for the most part, I felt like I had a happy childhood. Right around 8 years old, maybe 9, I think. We had a visitor come in from out of town. I think it was my mom's uncle. And, man, this is before people would call you on cell phones and just let you know what's up. We would just have random people show up at the house at all hours. So I'm dead asleep. And the next thing I know, the light flips on, and a kid probably about my age walks in and just starts taking off his clothes, getting ready to go to my bed to go to sleep. And I'm like, what is happening? And my mom's just like, "Oh, this is your cousin." She comes in with the introduction after the fact. So, and I'm like, okay, awesome. So I'm like, I guess I'm sharing a bed with you tonight. This is really weird. But that man literally brought the gospel to my family. And That was the moment some things started to change in my family. And we started going to church. It was an all Spanish church. And I was like, what's happening? I'm Puerto Rican, Zach, but I don't speak Spanish very well. So even when I preach at Spanish churches, man, I need an interpreter, which is super embarrassing. But it's okay. It's all for the Lord, so I do it anyway. And, it was a great church. Gave me a good, solid Bible background. And but eventually, around 15 years old, is where I ended up at what was called Evangel Assembly of God at the time. And literally spent 20 years at that church before moving to Texas to become a full-time youth pastor. Wow. But I was the obnoxious kid, man. I was the kid every youth pastor wants to strangle. My father was a functional drug addict, so we had some things going on in our family, and I think as a result of combination of things, missing out on time with him, missing out on some other things, I wanted to be popular. I had to be the guy always talking, always cracking a joke. I was the kid that always had a girlfriend, and then as soon as a new girl came in the youth ministry, I was like, my God, I need to minister to her, amen. And I'd try to befriend her and get close to her, and I'd walk away from my girlfriend. It got to a point where there was a section of girls that was all my ex-girlfriends, so I barely wanted to come to youth group. But I was that kid, man, just obnoxious. And but the highlights of my childhood, man, were going to Breakaway, going to Momentum, I'd go over there with my little cool guy self and then not respond to altar calls and just act like I was, too tough, too thug life for that, and I just trying to ignore stuff. But by Thursday night, man, I never fails. Always up there weeping, just enjoying what God was doing. But yeah, that was just growing up in that. And I kind of graduated out of youth ministry, and I was, there was no young adult ministry for us at the time at the church, so I kind of didn't know what to do, and kind of hung out at youth ministry still for a little while. And I was like, I'll be a leader. I'll serve. I'll do something. So no one invited me to do so, but I was like, how do I let them know I'm not here to be a kid? So I literally just started sitting on the other side of the sanctuary by myself. I was like, that'll tell them. And I brought my youth pastor water. to preach. Made sure he had a little towel because he was as sweaty as I get when I speak. And, did whatever I could, organized chairs, picked up garbage. And I thought, man, I'm doing good. I'm serving. This is awesome. And then one day during service, an older youth leader lady, taps me on the shoulder during the message. And I kind of look back like, that rude? What's up? And then she's like, aren't you a little too old to still be in youth ministry? And I was a hothead, man. So I looked at her and I literally stood up in front of the service. I just gave her the dirtiest look I could muster. And I'm like, just walked right out, man, of service that day. And no one called me. No one hit me up. No one asked, where'd you go? What happened? So I use it as an excuse just to be hurt and blame the church and say, you know what, forget this. I don't need this. So backslid, man. In my early 20s, I just started. It was a year of firsts in my life, and they weren't good ones. I was doing a lot of things I had no business doing, and I was drifting further and further away from God. And eventually just came back to church, the same church, and a young lady caught my eye. Her name's Diane Sosa at the time, and our young adult pastor at the time invited us to be young adult leaders. So right off the bat, my ears perked up like, someone wants me? I'm like, here we go. So I remember going on a couple ski trips and just hanging out, getting to know this girl. And one day she called me, and she was all down, and she's like, you're not going to believe this. And I'm like, what's wrong? Why do you sound so depressed? She's like, we're trying to go to Breakaway. She was a youth leader at the time. And she's like, and we have a shortage of male counselors. She's like, I don't know what we're going to do. And I'm thinking, this is my chance. So I literally tell her, I was like, well, I know a guy. She's like, who? And I'm like, it's me. I'll go be a counselor.
I'll rescue you.
It's for the kids, babe. I mean, wasn't calling her babe yet. So I'm like, I'll go. And, I had great memories of Breakaway. And I'm thinking like, man, I'm going to play basketball, have some fun snack shack late at night, and just spend every waking moment I can with this girl. And the kids will be there. I'll be nice. I'll be cordial. But I just wanted to go for her. Dead honest truth, bro. I'm just being real with you. She calls me the Friday before camp to tell me that she had some horrible news. And I'm like, what's going on? Someone got fired at her job, and there was no way she was going to be able to take vacation the following week to come to camp. And I'm on the phone, and I'm like, this is not even I don't even have a decision here. I can't play it off and say I was only going for you.
Right.
It'll blow my cover as a good guy. So I'm like, you know what? I was like, that's unfortunate. I'll hold it down for you. And
I'm going to miss you.
Man, I was so mad. I woke up that Monday morning like, this is going to be the worst week of my life.
Right.
I was like, my plan's foiled. It's over. And, man, throughout that entire week, you already know what happens. Doesn't matter what kind of heart you show up to Breakaway with. God can get through all that. And that week was just as much for me as it was for the kids. And I literally felt God calling me back. And that was the first time I'd ever felt anything in relation to being a part of full-time ministry. I felt a calling for it at that camp. And I was like, this can't be happening. So I was just thinking that's not part of the plan. I was coming for her, but what is happening here? And I kind of tried to push it away. But we get back from camp, and I remember that first Wednesday night back, I was at home, and I lived a few blocks from the church, and I'm like, I'm not a youth leader. I'm not going to service, I was like, I'm going to be home. I'm going to hang out. And I just kept thinking about them while I was there, and I was like, I wonder what they're doing right now. Probably got a little pregame music going on, and they're about to start a game, hype it up, and they're going to have service. And I was like, I guess it wouldn't hurt to go check in on them, see what they're doing. So I just remember walking in, trying to be low-key, and everyone was kind of like, it's Nelson. And it was just like this group of kids that just ran up to me and hugged me, and I'm like, I'm home. And I never left youth ministry since. Yeah, it's kind of how I came back to the Lord through youth ministry, and how a girl kind of reeled me back in to being a full-time youth pastor, which sounds horrible, but again, whenever students want to come to camp because they like a girl, now I know, like, I will never. Your motive can be wrong. Just get to camp. Just get to momentum. Get to the service. Let God do something in your life. And I thank God He had mercy on that motive, and still chose to use me, man, and
it's cool that even as an adult, like as a counselor, God met you at camp.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's not just for the camper. Like, a counselor life could be changed too.
Mm-hmm.